Hey everyone, what's up? Gary Simon of Slant Audio. So today we're going to be covering Yngwie's Arpeggios from Hell. And this is based on the video that you find on YouTube where he's sitting down. I think it was some sort of instructional. Whenever he plays it, it is different. But that's the version that we're going to be trying to tackle as much as possible. And the tuning here is in D sharp, so it's just a half step down from your regular standard E tuning. All right, so we're going to be taking this in multiple parts, multiple videos. This is part one. And as you'll notice, I do have Yngwie's signature strat here with scallop frets. You don't have to have that, of course, but I really wanted the guitar, so I bought it anyhow. But anyhow, let's get started. All right, so he starts off by doing this bend and then going right into the main theme, which is repeated twice, and I'll let you know, obviously, where that whole thing repeats. But that's basically what we're going to be doing for this first part in this video, and also just before we're getting into the crazy solo. All right, so I'm going to play that real slow, so just so you have a reference point, and then we'll go over the actual fret positions. We'll talk about left hand technique, or fretting hand technique, and picking technique as well for this part. So that same thing, real slow. All right, so it starts off with a bend. I usually go around 17 on the E string, so, and then it slides down, and then we start into the main theme. So we start with 2 downstrokes with the open E string. All right, so then we take the index finger on the 3rd fret of the E string. All right, just like that. And then the same thing right here from, and this is a bit of stretch, from 3 to 7 on the high E. So it goes. All right, so we're doing alternate picking here, with exception to the very first 2 strokes, which are just down, down, and then we start into alternate. All right, so we're ending on a downstroke. So then we do a position shift with our index finger on the 7th fret, where we're going to sort of bar both the 7th fret on the E and the A string. And you want to make sure to roll that a bit so it doesn't bleed into each other. So here's what I mean. All right. So when you have that downstroke and you're doing that position shift, which is real fast, you're hitting an upstroke on the A string, down on the E, and then back up on an upstroke on the 7th on the A. So again. All right. After that, we have, we're going to take our pinky finger. We're going to leave it on the 7th, and then the pinky finger goes on the 10th. And make sure you're ending that on a downstroke. So everything so far has been purely alternate picking, but you want to make sure for this next part that you're ending on a downstroke. All right, again. Okay. On this next part, you can tackle this through alternate picking if you want, or you can do economy picking, which is how I choose to do it. I just found it a little bit easier to do. I think I might have a better economy picking than alternate picking. But Tina S., for example, her version of this, she's doing alternate picking between these. And it's a little bit tricky if you're going to go that route because you're switching between inside and outside picking real fast, because there's only 1 note per string that we're going to be dealing with this next little sequence. All right, so for my version, which is the economy version, and it looks like that's what Yngwie does as well, based on that very blurry video as a reference video. So we have 10, 7, 10, ending on a downstroke. Then we have an upstroke on the 9th fret of the D string. All right, so on that upstroke, we're going to come at the downstroke back to the 10th on the A string. And then another downstroke back again to the D string. So here's what this will look like. We have our down, up, down, up, down, down. All right. And then that begins the economy sequence where it's up, down, down, And then we take this pinky finger and we move it to the 9th fret of the G string. So, all right, so let me just go through the picking sequence here. Up, down, up, right, rather down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, down. Take your middle finger here, and this will be on the 6th fret of the B string. And it's up, same sequence again, up, down, down. So as you can see, the frets, they all, with the fingering and the frets, it all lines up. So you stay in the same position right here. All right. Once we get to the bottom here, we take our pinky finger and just hit it once, right here on the 12th fret. And then we have 2 open picks on the E string. Then we have a position shift up here where we're going to do a 15, 14, and 12. All right. All right. After that, then we come up here from 19, we do a downstroke with a pull off to 15. And then I do a upstroke on 17 here with the middle finger. So this is a downstroke, up, downstroke on, and this is the index finger on the G string and on fret 16. All right, so and then on that downstroke, I go back up with an upstroke, and I do 2 sequential upstrokes. So we're doing economy picking, but this time it's going to be down, up, up to ascend up the neck. All right, so the way that is, and then we go from 17 here on the D string, down, back up to 16th on the G string, to back again here. So again. All right, so then we come down here, and this is going to be on 14 on the D string. So we do a quick position shift here. And I usually just downpick that, and it's just a basically a hammer on from 14 to 17. And then I stay right here, which is on the 14th, and I bar the E or the A and the D string. So we're down, up, up, and then right here on the 15th on the E string, down, and then up, up. Now usually I use the middle finger to come down to the 12th, right here. All right, after that, we slide in to the 12th here on the A string. All right. And the picking sequence and the finger is very similar to what we had down here. This is right here. After that, we have a bend, so. And that's, I use my middle finger with the help of the other 2 fingers. to bend with some vibrato. And it's pretty wide vibrato the way he does it on the 15th fret. All right. After that, we have this little sequence that's repeated twice, and you'll see where it repeats, and it makes it fairly repetitive and easy to do. So after this, we have... Then we have... All right, so what that looks like is we have here on the 18th, a pull off to 15, and I just do a downstroke on that. And then I have an upstroke here on the 17th of the B string, rather. And then we have a downstroke on the 18th of the G string. And then all right, so what that looks like is we're on 18, we do a pull off to 15. And then we take our third finger here, we put it on the 17th of the B string, and I do an upstroke here. And then we take our pinky finger, from the 18th back to the 18th, except we're skipping a string and going to the G string here. All right, and I do a downstroke there. Back with an upstroke on the B string, same position. With an upstroke here. Back with a downstroke here on the 18th of the G string. All right, so this is 15, 18 again here on the G string, and this is just down, up, down. Down here from the 17th back again to the G string on the 15th. Down, up, down. And then we have a little bit of a position shift with our index finger going to the 14th fret on the G string here. So as you can see, this is all pretty much alternate picked. And then you take your third finger here and go to the 16th fret of the A string, and then go back forth between those two strings again. And then we do another shift here to the 13th fret of the A string. And then you take your middle finger or so and put it on the 15th fret of the E. And sometimes he will do some vibrato there. All right, after you do that, after this, you have a slide down, and then you repeat the same exact thing, except you're just down half a step or down one fret. So instead of it being on 18th here to the 15th, we start on the 17th to the 14th. Same exact thing. All right. After that, we have a little sequence down here starting on the 15th and the 12th. And it can be a little bit confusing, so you have to really practice this to get it down. So give yourself, at least several days, or a little bit less if you're a more skilled player, of course. So what we do is this. All right, so here's what that looks like. We have on the high E string, we're doing a pull off with our pinky finger to the 12th fret of the high E, and your index finger is also going to be kind of barring the 12th fret as well of the B string, right when you start, right out of the gate, so it's right there. So we're doing upstroke pull off on the high E, 15 to 12. Then we do a downstroke on the 12th of the B string. And then we do a downstroke back to the high E string. So here's what that looks like. So you're going to be rolling your finger when you're barring those two. You don't want it to sound like... You want it to be... So up, pull off, down, down. Then we do an upstroke, but we're moving our hands, our pinky finger, down from the 15th to the 14th on the high E. And we do an upstroke and then pull off to the 11th fret. All right, so here's what this looks like so far. So that's an upstroke, pull off, take a middle finger, 12th fret of the B string, and then another downstroke on the 14th fret of the high E. So here's what this looks like so far. And that's a downstroke. Then we repeat it. Upstroke. All right. So you do that several times. About 4 times. And at the very end, using your, preferably your 3rd finger, you do a little bit of a vibrato on the 14th. All right. And then that starts off into a really fast run where we're ascending up the neck and down the neck here. So this looks like this. All right, so we're starting here. What that looks like is on the 15th of the high E, we're doing a, starting with your pinky, 15, 14, 12, and then 11. I start with alternate picking on a downstroke, and then I end up on a downstroke on the B string, right, and I do a little bit of a position shift, and then put my pinky finger on the 13th of the B string. So that's 13, 12, and then 10 here. And depending on the way you want to pick this, you could do straight, alternate picking if you wish. You could also do economy picking. So 2 upstrokes you could do. Or you could do it a little bit an altered version where you go alternate picking all the way up until this point. You could do a pull off. All right, so at that point, we're going to go to the G string on the 12th fret. It's basically the same exact fret distances between when you started on this high E for this run. All right, so that's 12, 11, 9, and 8. And then we come back here to the 10th, and then 9 and 7. And then 10, 9, 7, 6 on the A string. So let me just do it real quick here, or real slow rather. Then we come on the E string, and this is the 8th fret. And really, I just go 8, 7, 5, and then just slide down. All right, so that right there, you repeat that whole thing twice. All right, so you go right back to. All right, so the whole thing gets repeated exactly as is. And then, at the very end, when you're doing that run that we just covered, you come up here, right before the solo. This is kind of just a part to get us right into it. You switch your pickup here. Let me get that into view. From the neck to the bridge. All All right, so he does a bend with then some vibrato brought in after. So he goes, and it's a half step bend. And so it's here at fret 16, you're bending to 17. So here's 17. That's where we want to get to when we're on 16. All right. All right, so you do this bend. And then you take your index finger on the 12th fret. And then you pick on the 14th fret. Another bend. And it's a half step bend again. And back down to the 12th. So the whole thing so far. And then I take my middle finger up here on 16. No, not 16. 17 rather. So it looks like this. So another half step bend on the 17th. All right, so it looks like this. All right, so when you do that bend, up here to the 18th fret, really. So he bends up, and the alternate picks it real fast. And he'll do a little vibrato after the last pick of that little sequence. With a slide down, basically. And that is it for this very first video. Boy, doing this is not easy. Trying to navigate over all of those notes and try to describe what's happening. Hopefully I'll get a little bit more fluid at that. Anyhow, just take this first part very slowly, work your speed up until eventually you'll get there. And yeah, I'll see you in part 2 where some really crazy stuff begins.